My name is Dr. Donald Rogers. I'm a consultant with the Northern Medical Unit out of Manitoba, which provides mental health services to 18 communities, 10 of them in Manitoba, remote Native communities, and 8 communities in the Keewatin. We have a number of doctors who provide consultant services, and we've been doing this for 15 years or so. On this series tonight, would you like to introduce that, Philippa?
Then Dr. Donald Rogers niakuliriyo niartawaktok ihumalulik lokitunik takuyaktoy hoktok 15 nigok nunanik takuyaktoy baktok Manitoba mi tamanilo 8 nik nunaling uglakak baktok.
And the interpreter for me tonight that you just heard is Philippa Marti from Baker Lake. Don't have to translate that. Where mental illness is common everywhere in the world, and studies in recent years suggest that the number of people having different types of mental problems is approximately the same.
Ihumalung nirtaman na ihumaluang nirlunit namilukta nunaryami tiyan na ito kaluktamat kaya nitamani ukiwaktak tumi kawiha gakalilawang mata.
The most common thing that happens is people suffering from anxiety, nervousness, and that's all of these things we'll discuss more later. And in the Northwest Territories, taking a population of let's say 50,000, there should be about 4,000 to 4,500 people today who are having some degree of anxiety.
Amalutaman na ihumamud aksuluang alaging nakakmatagok imaka 50,000 ni inukakpat ilangit 4,000 loki kanigiyangan ni alaging ni ihumalung nakayang mata.
And the next biggest group are people who are suffering from some form of alcohol or drug addiction, particularly alcoholism. And in the Northwest Territories today, on the kind of studies that have been done around the world, there'd be about 4,000 people suffering that today.
Ukioktak to mitamani 4,000 to 500 or 4,500. Kanigiyangan ni imialung niyang mudlo angayang natunulu kubiyahong iliro taw taktu tamani kanigiyani pitakangman.
What I'm doing is taking the percentages that have been shown in fairly recent years for large studies in the United States and some in Europe, and taking 50,000 population in Northwest Territories, figuring out how many there might be of each thing.
Tamakwa okaw herit tagay nahaw tilokate buktoraw tigi magin ngok 4,000 locate uktoraw tiging magit imaka napangilunit imialong niyang mulunit kubiyahong nilyutaw lirayak angayang naktunulunit.
The next biggest group are people suffering from depression, and we'll be discussing that later, the difference between depression and being just unhappy. And again, about 3,000 people today in the NWT will be suffering enough depression that it's interfering with their life.
Amalo tamanak ihumalung ni kubiyahong ang tamani ukioktak tumi 3,000 ngunayakpat imaka ilangit kubiyahong inik ihumalung nilo at tigi luawing imanik okaluto kablalikpat at tigi nginingin okalugyang namat kanuing mangata.
The next largest group are the people who are more severely ill, in the sense that they most often have to go south to hospitals for very severe depressions or very severe overactive behavior to where they're completely unable to manage. And again, in the Northwest Territories today, that's a smaller number. We're looking maybe at 200 people maybe at any one time.
Amalutan na pekata okaw hiriniakta nga piluang nirsait ihumayro tiniragaw hoktuli inungnit ingminnik nalirtu tiluawing ni ayoktut ihumaminnik imaka tamani luktak 200 katinayak pitakakayang mat nunat siya luktami.
And probably the most severe type of illness in that it disrupts the thinking and ability to function of people is the one you've probably heard of called schizophrenia. Fortunately, the numbers of people who get hit by this disease are small, and there may be 50 people at any one time in the Northwest Territories.
Tekwalu ihumayrutin nakagawhuktud amihulang iniksawgaluit ihumamin ni atutiang ni ayulaklutik nalaktuti yung nikhimahuktud.
More than that, it's more than 50, more like what, 300.
Maka 300 kanigiyangan ni.
So what we're going to try and do is take each of these, in addition maybe some other things such as epilepsy, and just talk for 4 or 5 minutes on them to give you some idea of what that illness is. There's no way in such short times that we can go into a great deal of detail, but we'll try to give you some idea of what each of those mental illnesses is.
Tan ukalurikang nilung niya matukihitit niluglo ni allaginik kanok pibalya hong mga talunit kanok tukihilawing itkalwarlohi ikayok palang nilung niya ngong.
If we take the first one, I mentioned anxiety, it's something that is common to everyone. There isn't anyone alive who's never had.
Ang uyak tumig pitakang matimipting ni hanawag tumig.
And normally, we use this to get through doing all the things we do all day, for feeling good and feeling ready to do many things.
Malutam na ato kang mat kautamat kuya hurangap talunit huliriya karangap talunit.
There are times when we get a little more than that, and that's when you might notice that you're a little nervous.
Malutaman na ang uyak to ang iluak to yalarangat ublud ilangan ni kanukyak kuksa huglak to yalokilosutilo ilihokawit.
For example, the young people here have all had exams and know that sometimes if they're worrying about the exam, their heart starts to go fast, they start to feel a little scared about it. That's when they're having a little too much of that stuff.
Amalo magkuktut imaka huliriyaya kaktaminig ihumalwalera nga miglunid umatingi piala halerlutik amaluten na ang uyak to ang ilwalera nga tiyan na pilihong mata.
And sometimes when a mother or father are worrying about the children or worrying about how things are going with them, they can get these same nervous feelings.
Amalutaw ang ayok kanguyut nutak kaminik ni Vioria kaklutig-lunit pilira nga mig tayman na taw pilihong mata kuksa huglak to yaklutik kanukya.
And even when someone's out hunting and if the weather gets bad and they're worrying about getting caught in bad weather, they'll start to get nervous, and it'll make them work faster and try harder to get a snow house or something like that.
Amalunit makailutik tamak lukit kunik ni Vioria sa miniglo ihumalukilira nga mig tuavero alokit to aloksutik pilihong mata.
So what we call nervousness or anxiety is not necessarily a bad thing, because if we didn't have that extra pushing to do things, we might never get things done that should be done.
Amalo taman na kukahong nirlunit sa yuwar nirlunit tayman na pibangit kupta ang uyak tumig perok to kakpang patimipting ni piliralo kapting ni go pianik pagayang inapta.
Well, I'll tell you the sort of things that happen to the body when more of this substance is produced. First thing that people usually notice is that their heart goes very fast.
Then ang uyak to ang ilakpalak to yakangat kawihorap ta timipting ni pialahawak to yalakluta ihumalahawak to yakluta pihorap.
Often they'll feel that they aren't getting enough air, and they'll feel that it's hard to get enough air in. In fact, their chest might get tight from trying to get more air in.
Amalo anikak to mersuni anikhaterne ayong naktu yalihong manngok katigabu tukatu yarangat.
With a bad attack, they may want to open windows or go outside because they feel not getting enough air.
Amalo anikak to tiak to yang ilarangamik imaka igalani ukwek si hoak ukwek hilutig lunit aniktritiawak lutik pihong mata.
and they'll notice that their hands and sometimes their feet will be cold and maybe sweaty.
Amalu adigailu itigailu ikkirtu yaqaluarlutik kiagugattualerlutik.
And their arms will feel heavy and shaky, and they'll sometimes feel their muscles are weak and they'll feel they're going to fall.
Amalu talingi okumaitu yalerlutik niugiglu nukiqatsiartu yarungniraangata naudgutiniartu yarugillerlutiklu pihungmata.
And sometimes they feel their mind seems to go so fast that they can't concentrate on what they're doing, and they get up and walk around and try to get settled down.
Amalu ihumangit piala haluartu yaleraangata nutqangatsiarni ayulerlutik ihumatsiarnerlu ayulertu yarlutik pihuloramialerlutiklu ihumatsiartu yarungniyungmata.
And at night time, when they try to sleep, they'll find their mind wide awake, going over and over, worries and things, so that they sometimes are hours and hours and can't get to sleep.
Amalu unwakut hining niluleraangamik ihumangit ihumaluarlutiklu hinilerne ayulimayung mata ihumangit tataluang mata.
And that's a severe anxiety attack, if you like. And a person can have one or two of those, and if it's a problem that they know that's worrying them, and they solve the problem, that goes away.
Amalutaman na kuwehungilertarner ihumaluarnerlunit angililuarangat taiman na ilihong matakihiani kawi magun mituk o kawhiriga nga mituk namumiak hutayuyugalak.
But in addition to all these physical feelings, in their mind they'll sometimes feel like something terrible is going to happen. They don't know what, but just a feeling that maybe they're going to die or they're going to go crazy, something like that, and that if they can't stand it any longer.
Amalu ihumaminut aksolo alertilugit kawi maglaktu yamelerlutik ing minik tokuniaktu yarugil lerlutik ubalunit ihumayrotiniaktu yarugil lerlutik pihongmata.
So you can see this is a terrible way to feel. And if it's just a little one now and then, most people say, oh, well, my nerves are bad and things get better. They talk to a friend and they feel better about it. So when it becomes a problem for seeing a psychiatrist or for a mental health person is when it goes on and starts interfering with their happiness and their life with other people.
Taiman na ilertilugu Inuk kuwiahungiluaqtalertilugu ihumayaalualertilugu tamakkuninga islaarsayinik niaqulireui iunirartauinik takuyareaqartaliyungmat immaqa inuhianullu laamagungniirtitsikpat.
Most people who have even a big attack only now and then, and they know what they're worrying about, they talk to their friends, they talk to their elders or grandmothers about the problem, and they get reassurance that you're doing a good job or let's help you with that, and it goes away. And that's most of the time people don't need to see nurses or doctors, they can manage it themselves.
Inuitawak tiana ihumayaaluaqtullunit immaqa piqannariarminnut oqallorikamiarlutik itluigiyaminniglunit nibioriyaminniglunit ihumayaalualeraangamik isluarsayiniklu nayangniklu takuyariaqangimialiyung mata oqallorik saqatuaraangamik.
In those few cases where it gets to where talking hasn't helped and doing things hasn't helped, then there are medicines nowadays that can bring this back to normal, and people can get some counseling from various people in the community or maybe in the medical services if it's very severe, to help them say what's making you nervous, what's the problem, because only when you can identify, see the problem, then you can go and do something about it.
Amalu tamanna oqallorikkartarlunilu hulirnilu kaluarluni ikayortuyangipat inuyumut ihumayaaluartillugu itluarsautinnuttau ikayortauyulluarmat hunami pidjuteqalluaving mangaat qawiyauniluguluni.
Often the people feel when they're having an attack that they're going to die, that they often think they're going to have a heart attack. It doesn't kill you. It isn't the kind of thing that kills you. It just makes you feel so terrible. Sometimes you wish you weren't dead.
Amalu inuit ihumahomata qawimayuiarlutik toquniarugin loqillutiklu ihumayaraangamik tukungit kaluak lutik ihianik inung mutap simunga ihumanot aksong nalualak pagmata.
That's a very short, brief look at anxiety. It's a very common thing. In a small amount, it's a very normal thing. It can be helped and it can be handled with help from your friends and, if necessary, from medical people.
Tamanna ukawhiriya nga ilay na luanga kubiyahong ilektar luangnik ihumaya luangnik. Ikayok daw yung nakdok pikan na kayap singnut ukalori kaksak pagkupsi ubalunit na yangwanut tamanna ikayok daw yung luamiak tugalak.
We've been talking about a number of mental health problems that occur with people. The last time we talked about anxiety or nervousness, and tonight we want to talk about depression.
Allagini ukalori kalong manaw lektorli kubiyahong iluang mik ukalori karniyalik.
Almost all people can get sad feelings at one time or another when they're feeling down or unhappy.
Inulukta kaya nikalolutiglunit kubiyahong ilektar yumihong mata.
If someone had their house burned down, or their wife ran away, or they lost all their money, it would be something wrong with them if they didn't feel down about it or sad about it.
Uktu takang namat iglungaluni ikwalakpat ubaluni nuliamin kimaktawpat ikpiguhungi miakpat tam na inuyok kanuin na yang mat kaya ikpigin na kakayang imat.
And sometimes if a hunter goes out for days and never finds a thing to hunt, he's going to feel sad.
Amalo makailuni ang uyakang itay na nikalungan na yang ming mata.
Those are going to be the things that happen to everybody in life.
Inuhik luktating nitabagkwa nikaluyo mitaka niakaptago inuluktating.
We wouldn't think that you'd need to see a doctor or anything special for that.
Nikalumya na kinaluni itwaksayin niluni takuyaw yakayakang na yuwitung mata.
And again, people usually talk to their friends, get help from their friends, help from their family to get over whatever the problem was and feel good again.
Nikalurangap silunit pakanayap sing nulunit ilalokip sing nut ukalori karlohe anigo ti yulang rapsi.
The type of condition that we call depression, or very, very extreme sadness, is the kind that maybe nothing much is happening wrong in somebody's life, or maybe they have had a trouble like a fire or losing money, but the reaction has been so big that they can't handle it.
Dan naliokaw hirniak tanga kubiyahong iluang nik allaw gayang mat kanuiluang it kaluak tilugo kubiyahong iluang nga angilik tilugo tao ayong nakayuluang mat.
And if the sadness gets deeper and deeper and goes on for week after week, then it's a time to be concerned.
Dan nalokubiyahong iluang nik ako ni ulualik tilugo hanat tailid amihungu titilugil lunit tana kamagiyaw yaka kalihong mainuk.
When a person has a serious depression, most of the things of their body slows down.
Tana inukubiyahong ilualik tilugo ako ni timingani ilangani pialayli yung mata.
They feel tired all the time and their energy goes.
Huliriluang ng lo ayulik lutik nukekaluang ilik lutik lo pihong mata.
They lose interest in things they used to like to do, and they say, maybe tomorrow I'll do it. Or if they did sewing work, a woman, she'll say, well, I'll do it next week. If a man liked to hunt or to curl, he'll say, I don't feel like it right now. They slow down their interest in things.
Taman na kubiyahong ngiluang ni atulik tilugo inungmut. Kubiyagi balok tamin ni kubiyagi yakarong nilo maka ang naguni mikso yulaw luni hapili mea luni akago piyumak para labag luni pingitay na luni ubaluni makaitiw guni makainir me kubiyagi yakalaw luni kubiyagi luarong nir luni ko.
Their thinking can slow down so that the work they used to do easily, they have to work harder to do because They can't concentrate sometimes, or they forget more often than usual, and they have to think harder to do the same things.
Amalo kuya hungilo aktiluta na Inuk ihumaninga nakinirsaw nilerlo nilo. Ihumalay nirsaw lerlo nilo pilirare balawak taminiglo nakinirhaw lerlo ni. Ihumaniluk tilu aksong nirsaw yara kalihong mata.
They'll have trouble in their sleep sometimes, so that even though they've been tired all day and they fall asleep at night, they'll wake up after an hour or two, hear any sound in the house and have trouble getting back to sleep, and then maybe wake up again, and maybe doze off and wake up again. And sometimes, even though they go to sleep for a few hours, they wake up early and wonder if it's time to get up and say, no, it's too early.
Amalo hining niluk paliraloak tilugo hiniluabing ni ayulerlutik tupay nakpalirlutik lo minguhuk tu yakaloak lutik kubiyahong ilualik tilugit tupalok paglutik lo hining nirlo ayulak paglutik tupagkaluang megunik lo ublanguluang mat ihumalik takayang mata.
And sort of like the other slowing, their appetite will go so that they don't feel hungry. Their food's there and they'll eat it if somebody says come and eat. But if they had to cook their own, they may not bother because they don't feel hungry. And this happens to everyone now and then, but when the person gets in a deep depression, they'll go day after day with little appetite till they begin to lose weight, and when they may lose 20, 30, 40 pounds.
Ang malutaan na inukubiyahong iluak tilugo kang nialo allangolo ni kagluak tangilalo nilo pinayang mat imaka kay kuyaw galwalo nilo niriyakto kuyaw luni niriyakto galwabing iluni teman na iliktilugo halok palyali kayang mat.
And inside themselves they begin to feel very, very useless, feel that they're not a good person, feel that no one likes them.
Tana inu kubiyahong ilualak tilugo, tiyan na ilak tilugo, ihumakalirayang mat, hunagsaw yung nero giluni, ubalunit, inung ninakligiyaw ngitsugilirluni, ing miniglo, hunagsaw tiging ilirayang mat.
Sometimes they'll think back, years back, and say, oh, I did a bad thing there, and I did a bad thing there, and keep thinking to themselves that they're always causing trouble for other people, and that they're not a good person.
Amalo tayman na ilak tilugit ing minig pitsaw ngigilir lutiglo pitsangit palawak taminiglo ihumalo alak tilugit tayman na ing minig ihumaminig ihumakalo alak tilugit yan na hunagsaw ngimero gilir lunilo nagligiyaw ngitsu gilimera yamat.
When all these thoughts become hard, they'll often cry for no reason, and no one or cry very easily at some little thing that happens.
Malutan na inukubiyahong iluak tilugo sunawluang itunut imakakayalak talalo nilo pinayamat kanuiliyaw kalwaglo nilunit kaya yutik sa wayang itunu kaya talagayamat.
And sometimes they'll feel so useless and such a burden to everyone that they'll wish they were dead, and sometimes they'll think of killing themselves.
Amalo inuktaan na kubiyahong ilualak tilugo hunagsawya ko ging ilak tilugo ing minik o kumaylo tamayang hugilerlo nilo ihumakalak tilugo ing minik inwa ko malihong mata.
The lighter depressions, again, most people don't get treatment. As you said, how many thousands of people there are today, there's not enough doctors, nurses, counselors to see everybody. And one good thing is that if people carry on, most depressions will get better.
Malutamakwa ukahiriya allagi gayang mata ilangit namang nirsaulutiglo ilangilo pilwak nirsaw mata ilangit ikayok daw yung naklutik kihanik tayman na itwak sa iya amihong ilwak tilugin ngok ikayuluktaan ngita ayong nang mata kihani ilangi ikayok daw bang miyugaluit.
And especially if they've got friends they can talk with and family who can encourage them and keep giving them hope, they'll manage and eventually they'll get better.
Tana inokviahong ipagkalwaktilu ilan na kayang italunit ang ayokang italunit ilalokimyang ita ukallori kakbegilugo ikayong nilukpak patyuk na magsiyong nakalwang miyoko.
And if they don't or they keep dragging on, then they can talk to counselors, and again people who know about depression can help them with more ideas. And if they still carry on, they can go to the nursing station. We have good medicines that can treat that these days.
Taman na ako ni ulwalak tilugo inung ikayok taw yung nangitu yalakpat anyawing mak na yung wanu tako haylo ni islasaw tinutaw ikayugaw yung nang mayoko.
When people are in a very deep depression, they don't think that anything's ever going to get better. And sometimes friends get tired of talking to them because they always say, well, it won't help, but they have to stick with them.
Ang malutan na inukubiyahong ikyuami at tualertilugo tapos mga inumut atrik bekakto yaong ni yung mata imaka ukallori kak bigi baktangi pinguliranga talunid ukallori kak bigi galwaktilugo atrik niakto yang ilekto yarangat
if they are so depressed that it goes on for weeks and months, then they should get professional help or nursing help. And as I said, there are a whole number of antidepressant medicines that take a few weeks to work, but what can bring people out of there if they haven't been able to get out themselves, bring them back to normal.
Take mingok tok tayo lilutig ilan na kaya loke ikayong niluin naktaya kang mata. Daan na lokuwahong niluakto ikayok taw ni ayok tu yakpat islaksaw titakang mat kuwahong niluakto nud ikagawok tunik.
I forgot to mention is that very often when people get that sad, little physical problems like aches and pains seem to be 10 times worse.
Puigulaw kami kauhirniaklugo anyalaktang ningit piluang saw yali yung mata kuwahong ilualaktilugo Inuk.
And very commonly people will go to the nursing station because they've got very bad headaches or very sore backs, or they feel aches and pains various places. And if they have the other signs and the other things that we talked about in depression, the medicine for depression will get rid of those pains too.
Malutan na Inuk anyar vilakayakpat na kun guyaktang naralo nilo ubalunit na kumya anyalak tang naralo ni tay kuning akaw hirilaw kaptingnik maliglutik itlasaw tinik tuniyaw yung namat.